We were absolute devout Catholics growing up, but for one reason or another, we did kind of step away from actively going to church. My wife was not raised Catholic. For a non-Catholic plus a non-religious person, it's difficult. Not impossible, but it's difficult. How do we do this? How do you get a non-believer to start believing? I don't know how that works. This is a story that I haven't actually shared with a lot of people. 5 years ago, I was turning 40. There was a number of things at work had me completely stressed out. And I ended up actually going out a lot, and not wanting to come home. All of a sudden, I found myself heading over to a local Catholic church. Find myself in the parking lot. I truly don't even remember physically driving there.
I am incredibly pleased to bring on a friend that I feel like I've known for years, which I guess it has technically been years.
Yeah.
But I've known him through the insurance industry, and his name is Gabe Oh. You could see him right here. Hi, Gabe. How you doing, my friend?
Thanks for having me, guys.
Gabe is the founder of Western Pacific Insurance. He sold to a national agency backed by private equity. He's the founder of Western Capital Partners, which is a private lending firm based near Seattle. And Gabe has just been one of these people in my life that I think we met over like LinkedIn years ago. And then we just sort of developed this relationship that has kept on even after he's now not in the insurance space anymore. But welcome to Modern Catholic Family, Gabe.
Appreciate you guys having me. Yeah, I think it has been years. I think it's been, I don't know, at least 5, 6, 7 years. So it's been a long time. Gosh, we're old friends now, Jim.
I know. It's an interesting friendship because as Jim's wife, right, you're not here physically in Atlanta. Have you guys actually ever met in person?
No.
I didn't think so. But I know Gabe.
Yeah, we have.
I feel like Gabe is a really good family friend.
I feel like I think we came close. I think there was a conference or two that we may have talked about attending. We never did, but I know we've talked on the phone quite a bit, and I've done a couple of these. So yeah, it's finally good to meet you, Megan. I've heard a lot. I know.
I'm thrilled to be here to meet you as well.
Well, I'll give you a quick story about like how why Gabe is important in my life. He is one of those rare givers that just will give of his time, will give of himself. There was, I think it was it before or after we recorded our first episode together, Gabe, on Agents Growth Academy, which is an insurance podcast that I had. He took it upon himself to walk the streets of Seattle.
I was thinking the same thing.
And made this incredible, like, he made a video for me that he sent, and it was just him going around all, these big attractions and just like, hey, Jim, I was thinking about you today, and I got you this shirt I'm going to mail you, and I got you this other thing that I'm going to mail you, and, you really need to come out to Seattle. And it was like, but it was almost like a vlog, right? Just for me. And it was the most incredible thing. And I was like, and literally got some swag.
We got T-shirts, an apron, some spices. Yep. I'm still using the spices. I love them.
There's still a long sleeve shirt of your insurance agency, like emblazoned on the front. And the first time I put it on, I was like, am I allowed to wear another insurance agent's swag? But this dude is just a giver. And
that's very kind. I think of you guys equally. But yeah, I've been trying to tempt you guys to come out here so I can show you around. Seattle's a gorgeous place. I've been living here for a while. It's absolutely gorgeous, and consider it my home for sure.
Yeah. Well, Gabe, I want to kind of dive right into it, and people are going to find out why this is going to be a unique show here in just a second. But what I'd ask is that you just kind of walk us through your upbringing and your faith journey to date. How did Gabe O end up right here, right now?
Sure. Well, I was raised Catholic. We did the Catholic school. We went to church during the weekday, on the week, obviously on Sundays. My grandma was a big part of our life. And my grandma, she did the morning prayer, the rosary, the afternoon prayer, evening prayer. We didn't eat meat on Fridays. We did it all. I mean, we were absolute devout Catholics growing up. Right, I would say right around high school or so. For one reason or another, we kind of stepped away. It was probably, honestly, on us, the kids, my sister and I. Probably, maybe we had a tough time getting up on Sundays. Maybe we were too cool. I don't recall. But for one reason or other, we did kind of step away from actively going to church. And then next thing you know, you go to college, you get older. And you just find yourself still a believer. I consider myself still a Catholic and a believer. In fact, I was married in the Catholic Church. My wife was not raised Catholic. And because of that, she's been great. And we've attended Catholic Church a few times after we got married. And I talked to you guys this offline, but as you guys know, for a non-Catholic, it is a little different, the Catholic Mass. It's very traditional. You stand up, you sit down, you stand up, you sing. It's just a little different. So I think for a non-Catholic plus a non-religious person, it's difficult. Not impossible, but it's difficult. So because of that, after trying that a little bit, we kind of went to some traditional non-denominational Christian churches, and that's been great. We've done that, but honestly, that's not what I'm used to. It's a little, I wouldn't say odd or uncomfortable, but it's different. It's like a rock concert, which is great.
Yeah,
I love rock concerts, but just not on Sunday. Just not on Sunday mornings. This is different. So we're kind of in a conundrum, actually, because we've actually just been recently talking about that, my wife and I, on how we both believe and agree that religion and believing in God and Christ is important to us as well as for the kids. It builds a great foundation. But how do we do this? How do we incorporate this back in the Catholic Church when I'm comfortable with, or do we just say, you know what, scratch that. Let's find another church that works better for us. So, we're kind of in this weird area in our lives where we're trying to figure that out.
Well, and as I said offline to you, you are literally a big chunk of our target audience, because this is a big part of why we wanted to start Modern Catholic Family. It's not just for, active practicing Catholics who, quote unquote, have the whole thing down. Mm-hmm. This is for folks trying to figure out, like, how do I navigate a real life situation where I was brought up in the faith, but my spouse was not, and we're struggling to figure out how to make that work with our whole family. So I appreciate you being real, man. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
especially because it involves your children.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and my kids actually went to a local Christian preschool and kindergarten. My oldest went to kindergarten, and my youngest went up to preschool. So they are believers up until now. And in fact, I was talking to my oldest the other day about, I believe God's real and whatnot. So we have the foundation. We've got to build on it. So I just don't know what's the right way to do it. Maybe there is no wrong way. We just have to pick a way. Maybe that's what it is.
Right. There's no wrong way. There's God's way.
That's right. I was going to say, I don't even think there's a right way necessarily. It's God's way. Right.
It's God's way. Yeah. So how you get there, right, will certainly be paved in front of you by God. You'll be on the right path. You'll be on your own journey for you and God together. And I feel like you're actually already there. I mean, right. It's not like you're staying here saying, oh, this is all fluey, right? We're not going to, you're sitting here saying, yes, I believe, and I want to come back to that.
Yeah. And Gabe, you shared a story with me, probably probably a couple of years ago and reminded us of it offline today, of, kind of how you have chosen to stay engaged with your faith. Can you share that with our audience?
Sure. Yeah. This is a story that I haven't actually shared with a lot of people. I have no problem sharing this now, just because I think, to me, it's a little bit, to non-believers, it's such an unbelievable story, in my opinion, that they may kind of laugh at me. So I don't know. Was I embarrassed? I don't think I was embarrassed to tell it. I just thought it was a personal story, so I didn't really share it. But since then, I've shared it, and I have no problem sharing it with you again and your audience. So about 5 years ago, I was turning 40. Right? I don't know if it was a coincidence that I was turning 40 or not, but I was happening to turn 40, and there was a number of things at work. That just completely had me completely stressed out. We had an audit. We had a number of other things going on. We had a couple of employee issues. Personally, we had 2 little kids. They were, at the time, I guess they were 5 and 3, maybe. So, you work, you walk in, the kids are coming in and, saying, "Daddy, Daddy," which, I think back and I wish I could relive. But at that time, when you've got a lot going on, you're stressed out because all you want to do is, just eat and go to bed or something. So anyways, with a combination of that and a number of other things, I ended up actually, going out a lot, actually, and not wanting to come home. And so my wife and obviously my wife was extremely worried, but she, God bless her soul, gave me some room to kind of breathe a little bit and not come. I didn't spend the night. I would always come home at the end of the night, but after work, I'd go out and go for a drink or something like that. So this went on for a number of months, and I was getting a little concerned myself. So this went on for a few months, and then after, right at the end of that period, I think I don't know. I can't quite explain it till this day, but my guess is I was probably, maybe went through a bout of depression.
Yeah.
I wasn't clinically diagnosed, but that's kind of what I can explain it. I mean, I've tried to explain this to a couple of my friends that at that period in my life, if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, you just won a $2 million yacht," I think I would have been indifferent. I kind of would have been like,
Wow.
It was just a weird period of my life, and I couldn't figure it out. I was really struggling.
Yeah.
And I was almost kind of embarrassed because I had such a beautiful family. Work was great, but I still could not figure out what was going on in my life. I was unhappy. I was, I guess, depressed. So anyways, one evening before I went home, or at the end of the day, time for me to go home, all of a sudden I found myself, heading over to a local Catholic church. Wow. Find myself in the parking lot. I truly don't even remember physically driving there. It was completely bizarre, but something. I mean, I believe it was God that led me there. Yeah. I walked into, as Catholics know, you've got the main mass room, and then there's the prayer room. So I ended up going in there, and I kneeled down, and I recall saying a prayer. Saying, "Look, God, I don't know what's going on. I am incredibly sad. I do not know what's going on. I haven't slept for 2 months. I'm asking you, please help me." And after I said that prayer, I remember looking up, and I didn't notice the other people in the room when I walked in, but I noticed that when I opened up my eyes, there was 3 or 4 people in there, others praying. This was in the evening, probably about 7:30 or 8. And then all of a sudden, I remember thinking to myself, and again, started feeling kind of ashamed and embarrassed, because I was thinking to myself, I wonder what these folks are going through.
Mm.
I said, these guys, some of these folks, I don't know them. They're strangers, but I wonder, I'm sure maybe one of their loved ones are in the hospital. They're sick. Maybe they just passed away. Maybe somebody lost their job, something a lot more serious than whatever I was going through. And I actually felt really embarrassed and ashamed again. And I remember that moment, I prayed again. I said, God, you know what, whatever these guys are going through is probably a lot more serious than what I'm going through. So I ask you to please, answer their prayers. And I got up and went home. And I swear to you, that night and the nights following up I probably had the best sleep I've had in months.
Wow.
And literally within weeks, whatever I was feeling just slowly disappeared. And that's when I realized, again, it reminded me how important, God is in my life and how I need God in my life. God, just telling this story just brings back memories, and it's actually reminding me that we do need to find a path, because that truly, was so important, such a critical period of my life where I was so down, and it truly, my prayers were answered. I'm very blessed. Mm-hmm. Good reminder.
It's a beautiful story. And you know what? There's a reason you're here today, right? Mm-hmm. If nothing else than for you to have that reminder that prayer is a path. Mm-hmm. And true to form for Gabe Oh, choosing to pray for the other people there, mm-hmm. right? It's not about you. It's you want him to answer, you want God to answer their prayers. Brother, I'm here to tell you that is that is the path. Mm-hmm. That is the path. It all starts with prayer. It starts with, surrendering. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you were doing, mm-hmm. Whether you knew it or not, in that church that night, is just surrendering.
Yeah. Jim talks about this actually a lot in our family with our friends, but he loves the surrender prayer. And he prayed the surrender prayer a lot when our own kids were struggling, because, when you're in a position where you struggle, whether it is with your own conflict or your children are suffering and you don't know how to help them, the best thing we can do is to surrender to God, right? And to let him kind of take over. And that's exactly what I'm hearing you say to me right now, that you got to that point and you were like, yes, God, I'm here and I don't know what else to do. So you are it for me right now.
Yeah. You know what? I've never actually had someone tell me that, but that's exactly what happened. I basically said, I give in. I can't do this. Yeah. I said, I can't do this. I need your help. That's exactly what I said. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what the Lord is waiting for. And I'm not saying this as like I'm certainly not a priest, or I'm not our head youth minister, although I do youth ministry. But in my own experience in watching friends and family and the teens in our Life Teen program, when they surrender themselves, when we get out of the way of ourselves and say, like you just said, I can't do all this on my own. I mean, that's when Jesus says, I know, and I got you. And I was waiting for you to come back. Mm-hmm. And then the graces that come out of that, like you being able to sleep well, for the first time in months, and not feeling that depression anymore. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing that. That was, it was good to hear.
Yeah.
And
I also want to just say too, I really appreciate the fact that you feel strong enough to be vulnerable and share that story, because, I think these days in our society, we talk a lot about teen depression, or teen mental health.
Sure.
Right. But we don't really talk much about adult mental health, and that's a real thing. And you said multiple times when you were telling us a story that you felt ashamed or whatever. Well, honestly, like that's how Jim and I felt a lot of the time, that we didn't know who to talk to. We didn't know you could talk about it. We thought we'd lose friends, or that our kids would lose friends if we talked about it. And it takes a lot of courage to get out there and actually have those conversations. And it's really important for people who might be listening to know that they're not alone, and that others have struggled as well, and there is a path forward. So I just had to put that in there, because it takes a lot to share those stories.
Well, I'll be totally honest. I did not. So when, before this incident, when somebody would tell me they're going through depression, or they're depressed, honestly, I was like, because my dad, he is a macho man. He's not a very big guy, but he is a macho guy, and he's a guy, I'll go for a walk, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy he is.
Some dirt on it.
Yeah.
And I kind of, that's what I've learned and dealt with things in periods of my life. So before this incident, that's how I felt. What are you talking about? Don't be silly. Right. After this incident, I truly believe it's a thing. It's a serious thing that needs to be addressed and talked about. I do think that that depression is real, and I'm very fortunate that I only had that one incident to experience it, but I do know some people experience it, whether, a longer periods of time. I went through it for a couple of months, and it was awful. Yeah. I don't know how one deals it for months on end or years. I don't get that. That's how powerful it was for me for that couple of months period. I do know some people deal with it chronically, and I don't get it, because that's got to be just absolutely painful.
Yeah, it is. And it can, it's a prayer that I say every single day, just because of the depression that has gone through our family's life in the past. And just, please take the darkness and doubt of depression and take it away from our home, because it is such a it's a debilitating thing. Even though it's it's something you can't see necessarily. It's not like, I broke my arm. It's clearly like I have a
cast or whatever.
Yeah, right. But it leaves scars. But I've found that with everyone that's gone through it, they each have to find their own way out of it. And obviously there's resources like therapy and, all kinds of things that can help. Certainly go the medication route, right? But everyone has their own journey away from it. And it's also, what I found is that it's also something that is not necessarily ever totally gone.
Right.
And it may be something that creeps back up in other moments of stress. And maybe it takes years for that to happen, but it can rear its ugly head. And it is something that, it's just such a tough thing for everybody to have to deal with, that has experienced it. But I'm very glad that you had the outcome that you did then. And I'm glad that you're here with us today. And, I don't think the rest of this episode was for Megan and I to give you all the solutions, right?
Yeah.
I'm just glad that you're vulnerable enough to talk about the challenges that I think so many other people are faced with. And I'm wondering right now, unless my wife has something incredibly intelligent to say, which she always does, if I just give her a second. But I am wondering, what do you feel like is the most immediate struggle that if you could take that away, you and your family might be, going to mass every Sunday?
I think, okay. I think it is, the struggle is how do I get my kids and my wife over to experience the Catholic Church again. Mm-hmm. Knowing that, again, I get it. The Catholic Church Mass is, obviously there's youth programs, but for my wife is very different, very traditional compared to some of the other Christian masses or services that we've gone to. So that's the struggle. We both believe that the fundamentals of religion are good. And we want that in our lives. And we both agree that, yes, we are okay with, sacrificing our Sunday mornings or afternoons to God, to learn and to grow. But taking action, and maybe it's on us. Maybe we just need to do it. Instead of just talking about it, we've just been talking about it. And that maybe she's, this is her way of delaying it. I don't know. we've just been talking about it for a while. I don't know. So I'm not.
I think
sure.
you might be onto something there.
Yeah.
Again, I recognize that she did not, grow up religious, so this is tough for her.
It is.
And if you didn't grow up religious, the words of the Bible. It's a glorious story, and that's it. I get it. Yeah. Yes. So I don't know. I am kind of curious. How do you get a non-believer to start believing? I don't know how that works, and that's kind of what we're trying. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I think that's such a great question, and I don't know that I have the actual exact answer to say here's the path, and this is the path that will make all your dreams come true. Or this is the path that will light put the flashlight on the path you should actually take through the forest. But, there are a lot of different touch points, I would call them, that I maybe would just suggest trying. Like, a Bishop Barron does several classes. They're really meant to be Bible studies, but it just brings you back to the beauty of the Catholic faith. So he does one on the saints in our church. So, you could learn about the saints together, but obviously it brings you back to the church. And I think the beauty of learning about our saints is that they're human like us. And most of them have really struggled like we have. And yet they found the beauty in the church as well, and then made it their, life's devotion to bring more people to the church. So those short little 1 hour episodes you could watch, one every Sunday afternoon or something. And they're totally family friendly. The kids could watch them. The Chosen that Angel Studios put out.
Yeah.
It's not Angel Studios anymore, but
no, it started
with just another great touch point of bringing you together back. It's something you can do together. And again, most of those are family friendly. There's a couple of ones that are a little scary right at the beginning,
it's a little on edge. Yeah.
But it's really just about the life of Jesus.
There's so many different ways. And it's, you alluded to, like, I don't know the right way. And the fact is there is no right way. There's many ways.
Were you guys both born in the Catholic Church?
I was not.
No, I was.
You were not.
I was raised, I'm cradle Catholic.
Yeah. I grew up in the Episcopal Church. And, the short story of my faith journey is that we, I was involved in our youth group when I was a teen. I loved it. And then we just kind of stopped going to church. It's for no particular reason, but throughout at least half of high school, I think we just kind of stopped going. And then one of the things that I was going to say about like how to sort of what path to take, or one of the choices that you could otherwise go down. The reason that I even thought about becoming Catholic is because my grandfather and Megan's grandfather, when we were both in college, died around the same time of each other, within about a month or two. And when my grandfather died, who was the second to die, she said, and we were almost dating at that point. Pretty darn close, right?
We were close.
In my mind, we were. But here's the kicker. Me becoming Catholic started with her simply inviting me to Mass. There's a guy at our parish here in Atlanta, Jack Tyson, who talks, his whole thing is meet me at Mass, because, and he talks about people who have, for one reason or another, kind of fallen away from the Catholic Church. And he just, any chance he gets, hey, meet me at Mass on Sunday. Here's what time I'm there. Right. But Megan's was a very specific one. And it was, once I got back into, like, I was literally on my knees praying, about my grandfather, and I'm looking around the church, and it's similar to the Episcopal Church. So for me, there was an easier connection. I'm hearing some of the sights and sounds that were familiar to me as a child singing in the choir in our church. And for me, I just felt like I was home. But there's so many different ways that people come back to the church. We're living in a time right now where there's some incredible media outlets. I mean, Megan already mentioned a couple that, are more media based, because that's what I think a lot of us are used to consuming. But there's one that I would recommend. If you haven't seen it, and it's out of theaters now, you're going to have to go dig for it. Hopefully not too hard, but it's an intersection of having a movie been made about it, a documentary, but also the person that it's made about is a saint for our time. In fact, he's about to become the first millennial generation saint. His name is Blessed Carlo Acutis, and he was born and lived in Italy. I think he died at the age of 15. But the story is incredible, and I won't go through it all here. But one of the things that he did for believers, and really for everybody, is to document the Eucharistic miracles. So you may have heard stories of the host bleeding or turning into blood.
Flesh,
and blood, or flesh and blood, and just all different kinds of miracles that have happened because of the body and the blood of Christ. And this is where it gets really maybe the biggest hurdle for someone who has fallen away from the church or who has never had the faith before, is that, you alluded to going into a Protestant church and it being like a rock concert, right? But that's not what you were really raised on, so it doesn't really attract you, which is interesting. I feel like you actually have a leg up, because there's a lot of people who have maybe not practiced their faith in a while and end up being attracted to the rave, right? But in reality, and I've heard people say over my own faith journey, becoming a Catholic, well, yeah, and you've said it a couple times already, Gabe, it's very traditional. There's a lot of standing and kneeling and lots of prayers and things. But at the end of the day, the only reason, and I mean the only reason, we go to Mass, it's not because the priest had an awesome homily. It's not because the sound system and the lights and everything were just jamming and we're having a party. It's because in the Catholic faith, we believe that when the priest blesses the host and the wine, the bread and the wine, it actually becomes the body and the blood of Christ. Now, I'm here to tell you that is something that even today, as a Catholic for now over 20 years, still struggles. I'll admit it. It's the prayer that comes to mind is, I believe, Lord, help my unbelief. It is a wildly crazy thing to think that happens every Mass, that heaven and earth are literally joined. But at the end of the day, it's not about the homily. It's not about the sermon in a Protestant church. It's not about the music. It's not about the flash and all this stuff. It's about a relationship with a man who 2,000 years ago, a God, our God, who 2,000 years ago became man to say, you know what? I'm going to get down and dirty in the mud with you because I can feel, I can see the depression. I can see the, the lawlessness and the inhumanity that humanity has become. And I want to remind you what it's all about. So there's not a right way. There's not the way. But what I would say is that there's lots of ways, lots of ways, whether it's finding a friend that you know goes to mass and saying, would it be okay if I joined you? Me and my family would love to join you. Do y'all do donuts after mass? Because that would be a bonus if y'all's parish does donuts after mass. We will absolutely show up and go to church with you and have donuts afterwards. Or it could be sitting down and watching, that movie about Carlo Acutis, which I was bawling at.
Yes, he was.
In the theater, grown man bawling at the end.
Couldn't finish his popcorn.
But it was just such a beautiful thing. We recorded earlier today with a guest who has a retreat center, and her whole thing is it's a Catholic retreat center. She built it so that beauty is at the forefront of everything when you first walk onto the grounds. And Megan alluded to Bishop Barron. It's Bishop Robert Barron, who's a very well-known bishop in the Catholic faith who has become sort of like the modern day Fulton Sheen, who is very good at evangelizing through media, right? Being on camera and film. And I don't know where I was going with that, but it's different avenues like that oh, that's what it was. He always talks about how the beauty of a church, when you walk in a cathedral, like talk about walking into a cathedral in Europe, that you just look up and you can't help but have your jaw hit the floor because you're thinking like, how did people build this thing? And wow, that is an unbelievably beautiful fresco or whatever, right? And it's that wow that happens in that moment that oftentimes can be a connection for someone to say, there's something really beautiful here about the Catholic faith. It's not just something I can see. I can feel that there's something more than just the beauty. So I guess all that, I know it felt like that was like a little
monologue.
Hey, it was inspiring.
Just to explain that there's so many different ways for you to attract your family towards the Catholic faith.
I think you know what, Jim? No, I'm serious. When you started talking about the priest blessing the wine and the bread and the relationship with God, that is what it's about. And I think that's what I'm attracted to. I mean, again, I'm not, music and entertainment, that's all great, truly. But I just feel like with the Catholic religion, it's more pure. It's just my opinion. Yeah. There's no right or wrong. I'm not trying to discount any other religion. I think it's great. Sure. I think all religion is great. But I just think for me, it's more pure and simplified. And that's what I like the Catholic religion for. And that's what I'm used to. I'm inspired, Jim. I'm telling you. I'm just going to have to drag my family. We're going to church on Sunday.
I love it.
I have to say, I really like Jim's idea. And it was something I was going to mention too about finding, someone in your community that that goes to the church that you would like to try out, right to your Catholic church, local Catholic church. If you have a friend and say, can we meet you? We'd love to come and go with you one Sunday. It's amazing how just having a connection makes it feel more personalized to you. When Jim and I joined our current parish almost 20 years ago now, we had been at another church, but it was kind of far away and we were about to have our first child and we didn't really want to drive 45 minutes to church because there was one literally down the street from us. And so we pulled into mass that morning to give the church a go. And we both kind of were like, well, here's hoping this goes well. And as we walked up the stairs, there was a man standing at the top of the stairs with a polo shirt on that had our university's name on it, Boston College. And so Jim and I both went to Boston College. And so then did this gentleman that was there. And we felt
Brian Dooling.
It was such a sign, but he also was so welcoming and we had an instant connection. And so we felt like, okay, yes, like we're coming into a place where maybe people are like us, or we would know more people. And, it does take time, but as you go more frequently, which is sort of the key, you have to commit to going, you start seeing the same people around you at Mass every week. And then you meet them. And maybe, if there's donuts after, like Jim mentioned, your kids talk to each other afterwards for donuts. And that helps build your community, because community is not instantaneous, right? I mean, you have to work at it. Like any relationship, like any friendship.
Yeah.
So if you are willing to give a little bit, 1 hour just to have this community each week, it will be given to you. It will just blossom.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Thanks, guys. You guys are.
Well, Gabe, my friend.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I'm just saying you guys have motivated for me to take my family to church. Yeah. I'll send you a picture, Jim, of us at church on Sunday.
Please.
Proof of life.
Please.
Proof of spiritual life. Yeah.
Gabe, I also want to tell you too that, I love that you're doing this for your family, because it shows how much you love them.
Yes.
Right. You are not out there just to, get something out of it for yourself. You love your family so much that you want to bring them to church, and your kids will see that. Your kids will see the love that you have for them by your dedication to them, and that will speak volumes to them. I mean, Mother Teresa famously, right? I've quoted her before, and I've quoted this particular line before, but she famously said, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family.
Yeah.
And your act of love in getting your kids to Mass is going to just shine through.
Yeah. And we've said this before, I know, but our vocation as parents, and this speaks to what Megan is saying, our vocation as parents is simply to lead our children to heaven, or to lead our whole family to heaven, right? That's the whole purpose of being parents from the spiritual perspective, really from any perspective. Mm-hmm. So I agree with what Megan said. I mean, if you didn't care about your family, you wouldn't be, think about it, Gabe, you actually wouldn't be struggling with this. You would still maybe be going out at night alone, trying to be away from your family and be, drawn into something darker, right? But you surrendered to God, and there was a path put in front of you, and we don't know what that is, and I'm excited to see what that is over time, right? But there is that path for you to I guess what I was saying before is, like, you actually care about your family. You care about your family enough that you are going through the struggle right now to figure out, how do you lead them to heaven? Mm-hmm. And that's a beautiful thing. So I would encourage you to lean into the struggle. That's one of the hardest things I've had to learn, is to say, instead of saying, why are you doing this to me, is to ask God, why are you doing this for me? Because when you can answer that question, and when you ask it enough and you listen, he'll tell you. And then you'll know exactly what the path is for you. Mm-hmm. So
I love that. Thanks, guys. You guys are, you're absolutely right. I love my family, obviously. God's been an important part of my life. I've been incredibly blessed. There's no reason. So it doesn't make sense that the life that I have right now. I mean, we, as an immigrant, came here when I was 3 years old. My dad was working in a plastics factory, making $2 an hour.
Wow.
To kind of where we are now. It just doesn't make any sense other than God. It's just truly been blessed. And sure, there was a lot of hard work. There was a little bit of luck, but the one constant is God. And I truly believe that.
Amen. Amen. Let's do this. Let's just end with a prayer, because that is one of our traditions on the show. And then we can sadly say goodbye for now anyway.
Yes.
But in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Jesus, we are so grateful to have our friend Gabe on with us today to talk about the reality, the real struggles that so many people are faced with, of not knowing how to get their whole family involved in their faith. The whole reason that Modern Catholic Family was created, and that we really listened to what that call from you, God, was to make this. So thank you for bringing Gabe on to really be vulnerable and to be real and to show others out there that there is a path. We might not know exactly what that path is, and that's okay, as long as we surrender to you. And when we surrender to you, that's the beginning of the journey back home to you. So thank you so much for having Gabe remind us all of that today. And we'll just end by praying the surrender prayer. Oh, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything. I'll say it again. Oh, Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything. We ask all these things in your sweet, precious, and holy name, in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Gabe, you are a rock star, my friend, and I can't wait to see how God blesses your family.
Oh, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys. Megan, Jim, thank you so much. You guys I think the world of you guys. Please come out to Seattle.
Yes,
and
we will in Seattle.
Jim, I will text you a picture of us at church, so you could post this up and show evidence to your viewers.
I love it. Yes,
yeah.
Challenge accepted. And you know what? We'll come out to Seattle just so you can meet us at Mass. How about that?
Ooh, I love it. I love it. Let's do it.
Hey,
awesome.
Gabe, you stick with us for a second. But for everybody else, God bless you and thank you.
See you at Mass.